Hi, so I'm going to talk you through briefly how to answer a paper 1 question 2 AQA. So you will be asked how language devices and features are being used within a small part of the text that you have been given. So you're usually given around 10 lines, a chunky paragraph to look at. So what's really nice here is that we already have picked out for us what we need to focus on. We don't need to worry about the rest of the text. So first things first, you will always get the same sort of question. So up until describe, it would always be the same. So how does the writer use language here to describe? And then the subject of that changes. So for this text, we're looking at the Tyrannosaurus Rex. So your bullet points would always stay the same as well. So these 3 bullet points down here will always be the same. Words and phrases, language features and techniques or devices, whatever you like to call them, and sentence forms. Now, what I suggest for my students is that we use this PROUD SMILE, an acronym, to remember as many language devices and techniques as we can. So as you can see, there are a range there of the things that you could talk about. These aren't an exclusive list. There is more out there that you could talk about, but unfortunately you can't find a acronym to fit all of them, or at least I haven't yet. So you could also talk about juxtapositions. You could talk about, what else did I write down? You could also talk about triplets that aren't there. So there are loads of things that aren't there, but you could talk about anthropomorphism, for example. So just because it's not there, don't feel that you can't talk about them. But this is a really great success criteria for you to use for your paper 1 creative writing. So all of these up until edit you can use for your reading. The edit there is more for your question 5, your creative writing. That's just to remind you to proofread. So first thing that we need to do is we need to go and look at this text and see what we can find. So first things first, get out your trusty highlighter and go through and highlight what you think you could talk about. So here I'm highlighting odd, resilient, striding, so that's a rule of 3. We've got great evil God, which is a lovely one to talk about, which I'm going to give you what a good one looks like on, which is a metaphor and an oxymoron, so really meaty one to talk about there. We've got a bit of alliteration, lower leg. What else do we have? Pebbled skin like the armour of a terrible warrior. So that is a simile, and I will leave it there for the time being. Now, what I would suggest is that you just quickly write on there which ones you've identified, so you know which goes with which piece highlighted, so it's more interactive and easier for you to use. Now, when it comes to actually writing a response, you may have been taught any one of these variations or something slightly different, but they're all basically asking you to do the same structure. Tell me how it's being described, how the Tyrannosaurus Rex is being described. Give me the evidence. We're picking out a quotation and then we're going to analyse it. Now, what all of these structures do is they, in a way, are great to get you going, but they limit you from getting those really top marks. This is something that AQA is trying to move away from. So once you get to your analysis, then make sure that you dig deeper, you do your next level of analysis. So let's have a look at my waggle. So the writer uses the metaphor. So first off, that's my point. Great evil God, evidence, quotation to describe the Tyrannosaurus Rex. I've also embedded the quotation here, which is a skill that is really good and gets you high marks. This tells the reader the sheer magnitude and size of the creature, making the reader feel scared and concerned for anyone who encounters the animal. So that's sort of my low-level analysis. I've talked about how the reader feels as well, so that's another tick in the box. The use of the oxymoron, so I'm now talking about another feature and I'm extending my analysis. So I'm showing that I understand and that I have a wide range of language devices that I can identify. Evil God, evidence suggests the ferociousness and power of the beast. Then I take this further, and this is the in-depth analysis that gets you the higher mark. A god is often considered to be omnipotent and omniscient. That means all-powerful and all-knowing, using their power in a positive way. However, the use of the adjective evil, again, I'm using another piece of terminology, suggests that he is using these qualities to harm. the opposite of a true God's intention. So that very quickly is a whistle-stop tour of how you should be answering this question. First off, make sure you're interactively reading, you're going through, you're highlighting, you're annotating. Make sure that you find these features. Make sure that you use this structure as a base, but don't feel limited by it in your analysis. And then here's a waggle for you to have a look at so you know what to be aiming for. Now, what I've also done in here is that I've also ticked the words and phrases bullet point that we've got in the questions. The words and phrases, I've ticked that one because I've talked about what evil means. So I've taken it even a step further and done both language devices and techniques and words and phrases. So we've done 2 things already. So if you do that for maybe another paragraph as well, then that's plenty for what you should be doing for your question 2, as it's only an 8 marker.